Let's go into the leg muscles now. Now we're dealing with the leg, which is, remember, the knee to the ankle. And we're going to have 3 compartments again. If I were to draw this one in the lower portion, we see that we have 2 bones. And I'm drawing the left leg. So we have this piece of the bone. This is the shin. And what we see is that we have an anterior compartment, a lateral compartment, and a posterior compartment. And we have the shin, which is where we have no muscle, but we have bone, which is what the portion I just colored in. We look at the posterior leg is still about the tibial nerve because it goes all the way down the posterior, plantar flexors and toe flexors. Anterior leg, we have dorsiflexors and toe extensors. This one, we have the deep fibular nerve. Remember that the common fibular comes down to the knee and splits into the deep fibular and the superficial fibular. The deep fibular goes long, it goes to the anterior compartment. The superficial fibular just comes down the lateral leg, and the muscles of the lateral leg are all about eversion of the foot. So let's look at the posterior leg first. We have plantar flexors and flexors of the toe. Everything's about the tibial nerve. We have gastrocnemius and soleus. Now these were sometimes in your textbook called triceps surae. You do not have to know that name, but sometimes it helps to know that name if you are trying to reference material. Gastrocnemius means the stomach muscle. Gastro meaning stomach. I have no idea why they named it that. Soleus is named because somebody thought it looked like a flat fish, a sole fish. Then the other muscles are named purely location and functional. Tibialis posterior because it's on the posterior tibia. Flexor digitorum, oh, that sounds like it flexes the toes. Longus because it's in the leg. Flexor hallucis longus because it moves the big toe. Let's start with gastrocnemius. So gastrocnemius is actually a biceps muscle. It has 2 heads, the medial and the lateral head. It does come from the medial and lateral condyles of the femur. And the key here is that, yes, it crosses the knee, but it has very little action at the knee. It does stabilize the knee and does a little bit on helping in the extension or the stabilization of extension. But really what we think about gastrocnemius for is going into this tendocalcaneus, sometimes called the calcaneal tendon, but much more commonly the Achilles tendon. Remember, Achilles lived about 3,000 years ago, got shot in the foot and died, probably because he couldn't run away from his enemies. But if we've called this tendon the Achilles tendon for almost 3,000 years, I think it's okay to keep calling it that if you want to use that in class. It's definitely a recognized name. This is a very strong plantar flexor. If you are standing, even standing still, your body has a tendency to lean forward, and gastroc is going to be the muscle, one of the muscle pair, it was soleus, that keeps you standing upright all the time. So very strong plantar flexion, and the tibial nerve is there. So you can see it both posteriorly, and I did this lateral view so you could see it here attaching in superiorly on the lateral view. Soleus is its companion muscle. It comes from the soleal line, so how's that for easy origin, soleal line. And it also goes into this tendocalcaneus or Achilles tendon, and it's also a plantar flexor. So if you're just standing or walking, they're going to alternate activities. But if you go up on your tiptoes, it's going to take both. And I want you to think about the amount of strength it takes for, say, the ballerinas who go up on toe point. An amazing amount of strength because they're holding up their entire body on their toes. And so this is why these plantar flexors have to be so strong. You also see very strong plantar flexors in people who do a lot of bicycling because the movement down with the toes is there. So again, plantar flexion and tibial nerve. I gave both views because you can kind of see it peeking out from behind gastrocnemius on the straight posterior. But on the lateral view, you get the best view of this long, flat muscle. So these two are an absolute pair. They were once thought to be the same muscle, but now we know that they are different. Tibialis posterior. So we're looking at the posterior tibia. Its name tells you where it comes from. and it's going to insert onto the plantar foot, meaning it's going to come all the way down to the bottom of the foot. And it does help in the plantar flexion, but really we think about this as the inverter of the foot. It's going to pull the foot medially so that we do inversion. So we see it there. It's the muscle tagged O here, and it's all about the tibial nerve. This model is where I've taken off, again, you can see the cut lines of gastrocnemius. So that is tibialis posterior. Flexor digitorum longus. Longus is in the leg. That's how you remember which one it is. When you're looking at trying to do the flexors versus the forearm flexors. Flexor digitorum means it moves the toes. I'm going to point out that it's toes 2 through 5. So it does come from this posterior tibia, and it goes onto the plantar surface of the toes. Basically, it has these little loop tendons that go around the toes to cause flexion of the toes. And we get the tibial nerve. So we are toe flexors. Now, flexor hallucis, I don't have a good picture of because it is deep to the other one. But here's what you have to know about it. Flexor hallucis. Hallucis refers to the fact that the big toe is called the hallux. And you have to know that it's separate and that we're going to flex the big toe, and it's the tibial nerve. Here's why you have to know the difference between the two. How often do people break their big toes? And you might have to be assessing the function. One of the ways that you can tell if somebody has broken their big toe is because they cannot flex it. So you should know that hallucis means the big toe. If you're thinking about the parallel, the thumb is called the pollex.